Okay, so how long ago did you get your psychology degree?
About 6 years ago.
And have you been keeping up to date?
Well, I haven't been practicing, but yes, I've been keeping up to date.
How long would you say you've known me?
Um, Around about a month.
How many hours would you say that we've been talking?
I'd say several hours a day, every day.
So that is about 90 hours. How would that compare to somebody seeing a psychologist regularly?
Well, if we're comparing it to that, you're looking at 50 minutes per week, once a week, over 6 to 8 weeks.
So that's a lot longer than somebody would see a psychologist, months and many times longer, right?
Yes, definitely.
So let's talk about performance impairing drugs versus performance enhancing drugs. As many as 1 in 3 college students who are athletes have admitted in an anonymous survey that they take performance enhancing drugs while they are giving me performance reducing drugs. So I'm going to give you 12 points that we've discussed over the last month, the 90 hours. And I want you to discuss with me your opinion about how these things give the opposition an advantage and what you believe they're doing based on the 14 witnesses and the dozens of interviews with people and the abundance of evidence. Are you ready?
Yes.
Number one is water.
Right. Well, obviously, if you're performing as a martial artist, in your case, you would need to be hydrated. So with water, it's very difficult for you to obtain because it's usually if you're buying from the shop or the tap water, it's contaminated, drugged. So therefore, it affects your performance, your ability to have coordination. You probably feel dizzy, maybe stomach cramps as well, um, and sort of make you lazy to actually want to participate in your routine.
Yes, definitely, because when they're drugging the water, it makes it so my overall intake of water is reduced. Therefore, I'm dehydrated. I have the cramps, like you said. I'm less motivated. I lose coordination, and this affects my demonstrations and my sparring. So when I upload a video to YouTube, I have to worry about that and the over 11 other things, and the opposition doesn't. But they still can't match my speed and my excellence and talent. Number two, the fumes.
Okay, so the fumes would affect your first of all your breathing. It would affect again. It would cause you dizziness, sickness. So you'd feel a lot of physical symptoms. Also affect your vision, which is also key in martial arts. You would need to be able to see and focus. So in general, it would have an internal effect, but obviously it's having more of a physical effect.
Yes, a lot of the same effects as the drugs. And again, it impairs my demonstrations and my sparring matches and, my side of it, my ability to perform. And the opposition doesn't have that problem, the other martial artists. So next one is number three is drugged. The drugs, the covert drugging.
Okay, so with the covert drugging, that would affect again. It would affect your probably your muscles again, pretty much very similar to the others, but this would be, I'd say this is because it's your food. If we're looking at food, the food is contaminated. You wouldn't be able to eat nutrition. on a regular basis, you'd have stomach cramps, and generally your performance would be inconsistent, and it would reduce energy levels.
Yes, and
And
also when I was
obviously your opposition wouldn't experience any of these
yes, and
symptoms.
also I'd feel burnt out because when you take drugs, you kind of crash from them. So whether I'm drugged and sedated or burnt out from trying to work out on drugs, it affects me all day, every day. And number four is nutrition, but we can skip over that. We kind of just covered it. Because they're drugging the food, if I was to limit my food to just nutritious food, it would be a lot easier for them to predict what I'm going to get and drug it. So we go to number five, slowing down my videos. What effect you think they're going for with this one?
Well, I believe that they're trying to undermine your performance, as in to deliberately sabotage your videos to give the impression that you're not as fast as you really are. So therefore giving an advantage to the opposition, and just really not making you feel, also having an effect on you mentally to make you actually believe that you are actually performing slower than you actually are. So therefore, I guess the videos are a good reference to keep.
Yes.
You
And
use the timer, or you look at your speed, do comparisons that way. So it's a good log to use in reference to.
yes, and that's a good point you brought up. Is that when with the drugs and everything else, I'm thrown off by the drugs, so it's kind of like you don't remember as well. You have a kind of I have a kind of foggy memory from the drugs. So when I go back and I look at the video, I say, "Whoa." And of course, they send me a lot of covert messages saying that I'm not as good as I say that I am, and on and on. Trying to get me to fall in line, so to speak, to, put me under these other martial artists. And they've made a great attempt to try to make me join one of these schools and so on. The insomnia is the number 6, the sleep deprivation.
Right, so the insomnia is probably going to affect your mental well-being. So again, focusing would be a problem. Concentration would be very poor. Having the motivation as well would be affected, and not having those, because your mind and your body would have to work together, especially in martial arts. So that those both would be affected in a sense, but it's really important to have that time to sort of, your body's relaxing. Your state of relaxation is important, especially when you're being very physical. So that would impact on your ability to show the kind of speed you have. So again, that's another form of slowing you down.
Yes. Go ahead.
And therefore, let's say if you were trying to sort of practice or display your skills, and one would be watching you when you're performing, it would give the other person a false sense that you're actually slower than you really are. So it would impact a negative influence, almost. If that makes sense.
Yes. The next couple we kind of went over. The next 4, the mind body, we touched on that, making me weak, distracted, and loss of coordination. We touched on all these things, so we can go on to the last 2, trying to induce paranoia.
Right, okay. So to induce paranoia, this is where the gang stalking almost becomes quite evident. So you'll start seeing similar patterns, people you've actually seen in a different scenario. So let's say, for example, you were watching, let's say, a movie or something, and then all of a sudden you get a friend request or on social media that is similar to somebody you've seen, and it almost starts making me think, oh, well, hang on a minute. Well, I was watching this. How comes this person who is so similar? And there's also elements of what they say to you in reference to what you've been watching or doing, kind of doesn't make sense because it's so much of a coincidence. So in that sense, that can create a paranoia. Also, when you're going out and people are behaving a certain way around you, and you find that they're behaving a certain way around you almost every day, it almost becomes like a pattern. So you've experienced this. So yes, in that sense, that's where the paranoia can kick in. That it also has an impact on whether you start developing doubt in yourself. So it's kind of almost like imposing on your confidence. So again, that has a toll on paranoia would have a toll on your physical and mental health. Again, impacting on your performance.
Now, let's go ahead. We have enough time. The one before it was distracting. I think we can explore that a little bit more. Any thoughts?
I mean, what do you actually mean about distracting? Could you be a bit specific?
Getting prank calls, people trying to engage in, disruptive.
So this is getting the prank going. Is another form of creating paranoia and creating a distraction. So you believe that actually, there's something wrong with you, rather than this is actually deliberately being caused to sabotage your performance and the state of mind you're in, which is focused. So the opposition is trying to create a weakness which they can sort of work with in terms of manipulating you. So the prank calling, again, the distractions of using electrical devices, maybe messages, odd messages that are maybe sexually in reference to any kind of things that you may be uncomfortable with, deliberately using those kinds of tactics to make you feel undermined or inferior in some form or another.
All right, so let me just make a quick comparison. Folks, this is like trying to do calculus while people are trying to distract you. And then you kind of fall behind, and then you feel like, well, maybe I'm not smart enough to do the calculus. It's kind of trying to get me to doubt myself, and it has that effect, especially when you combine it with all these other things that they're doing to make me lose confidence. And that, it reminds me of what the 8th degree black belt said in his book, The Master's Kick or whatever it was. I'll put it in the comments, where he said martial artists tend to be more concerned with business, and he said that confidence is the main aspect of our lives, I believe is how he put it, to where if they make you lose confidence, you lose skill as well. Martial arts requires a lot of confidence, focus, concentration, and repetition, and nutrition and water and all these things that we've been talking about. So let us go to the last one, the clumsiness. We have 1 minute left.
Right. Well, clumsiness would obviously fall in terms of your coordination. So you wouldn't be able to. It would also cause you distress, disrupt your routine, imbalance you, cause breakdown in maybe understanding what you're trying to do, your objective. So you'd have these kinds of misunderstandings of being able to have a clear, focused ability on what you're doing. So, trying to sort of like put your balance. If you did have, let's say, an opponent, the opposition did propose coming forward, which they have,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, if the opposition did you, it's like a deliberate strategy in kind of targeting you at a time where you're at your weakest. So it's really important that they keep you sedated almost, and discoordinated, to always be at an advantage. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Did you notice that we're breaking up during this interview? You were, at least, and that hasn't been happening. That also makes me wonder. They also been hacking me, and they've been trying to prevent me from uploading my videos. I mean, these are just the first 12 things that came to mind. There's a long list of side effects. The blurry vision, we didn't explore more. The hacking, the intimidation, the attempts at coercion. I mean,
it's a way of depriving you of your freedom and your rights. Destroying your environment, intending to create distress, disruption, also breaking down any kind of relationships you have.
Relationship.
Sorry.
A lot of this thing reminds me of manhood, right? Men typically, they want to be successful, in our capitalist society, and they want to have attractive women. So I think that when you look at this thing, what I'm doing makes them question their own manhood. They're like, we are greedy cowards. He's brave. He's the top martial artist. So it's kind of like an aspect of jealousy. It's not just suppression, but there's also jealousy. Because I could redefine what it means to be a man if I become famous, in our society. People will move away from this kind of greedy, capitalistic philosophy and philosophies and move toward righteousness, selflessness, morality, valor, virtue, and things that are much more respectable than being a cheating, guilty, sniveling coward. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just feel that it's just deliberately trying to target and lose your credibility as the top martial artist. So it's.
You see the difference between my challenge and some random person in a chat room saying the same thing? I mean, they will try to use social norms and hide behind social norms to avoid admitting that I'm the best. I guarantee you there will be liars and cowards and cheaters who say that my challenge means nothing. I gave them every opportunity possible. I've commented on hundreds of martial artist videos getting my challenge out. I have over 500,000 views from that, and my videos, countless videos with thousands of views that I referenced the challenge. And their network includes over 1,000 groups. When you look at all the intelligence agencies, all the military groups, the veterans, the different secret societies, the different law enforcement groups, the different political groups, gangs and social clubs, by the time you add them up, there's thousands of these groups. And some of them, like the Freemasons, there's 2 million or so Freemasons in America alone. So when you look at the groups that have come out as being involved and their greater network, we are looking at hundreds of millions of people in America in these networks alone, especially when you include their families and friends. The idea that someone in America could beat me at the most common, traditional, honorable, and effective martial arts challenge then becomes utterly ridiculous, preposterous, and for anyone to try to take away from that is extremely disgraceful, and it is destroying the foundation of martial arts, which is honorable philosophies of spirituality. Those people who are spiritual don't deal in trickery and cheating. They deal in truth and honor. Any thoughts?
No, I completely agree.
So I think it is a rather sad, time for martial artists, not just Americans and Westerners, that we see this going on. I can't help but know that it's partly because I'm black, and it's also because of my political stance. When you look at the martial artists who are famous, they're whites and Jews and some Asians, right? There is no equivalent to Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal who's black, okay? And we typically know that black people tend to fight better than other races, right? We look at Ali and Tyson and these kind of, gang members and guys at the gym. Black guys tend to be more athletic, more tough, So why do we see this in the West where white martial artists are elevated to positions that are far above their actual competency and proficiency in real life? And we don't see black people getting their credit. And the idea that an uncontrolled black person would get his credit becomes, far out of reality, far out of our grasp. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I just think it's disgraceful and considered, the greatest betrayal in martial arts tradition for them to not participate, not be able to sort of accept that you're perhaps you are the top martial artist.
Yes, and I think, me personally, I'm by saying this, me personally, if someone else had made this challenge and I caught wind of what was going on and all the martial artists who were aware and all the groups that were aware of it, right? I would either accept their challenge, especially if I lived in California, Northern California, the mecca of martial arts, where Bruce Lee's school was established, in Chinatown, in San Francisco. You have AKA Gym, you have countless world famous gyms and schools and studios and dojos. If I was a different martial artist looking at this thing, I would either give me my credit or I would accept my challenge. Okay? There's no other way about it. The most disgraceful thing they could possibly do is pretend that I'm not the top martial artist. That is a disgrace. You have to look at this thing for what it is. This is not a fantasy. This is not as an exaggeration. This is a guy who put $4,000 to $5,000, depending on what group you are in, to prove that he's the top for 3 years, and dozens of schools have contacted him, and tons of people are aware. No one has ever done what he's done, and he has all these things hindering him, and no one could even score a single point on him. It's time that the martial artists of America give him his credit. It's time that America gives him his rightful place, and they should not make any conditions or demands. That is disgraceful. Keep your politics out of martial arts. Okay? Martial artists can be politically active, but you should not try to influence the public's perception of who's the best based on your oppressive philosophies and disgraceful politics, and you putting businesses, your business over people. That is a disgrace. You have no business even teaching martial arts, participating, or even doing martial arts if that's how you feel and how you think. Give the top martial artist in America his credit. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's especially doubtful that anyone would ever be able to match you, especially given that you're fumed and drunk most of the time.
Yeah, and deprived water. I mean, how important is water to any exercise, much less the most intense exercise, much less being the top martial artist, which means you do the most intense exercise in the most intense way because you're the best at it. You see what I'm saying? So arguably, I need water more than anyone else in the country because I do it the most intense exercise in the most intense way. So for them to deprive me of an ability to have access to clean water, it's kind of like someone in an underdeveloped nation not having access to clean water. And this is America. This is California. I mean, and it also shows you how many people are involved. I mean, they have drugged me at dozens of restaurants and grocery stores and businesses. There are tons of people involved. Just the people who have harassed me in person over the years, there are thousands of them. Not to mention the trolls and their networks and everything else. They're representatives from gay groups, feminist groups, Democrats and Republicans, the military, intelligence agencies. I've had 3 or 4 different law enforcement agencies harass me. Santa Clara County Sheriff Department, Highway Patrol, Morgan Hill Police Department, San Jose Police Department, among others. Okay? It just, when you see their network, right, it is impossible for a rational person to believe that there's someone out there who's better than I am. This is a surveillance state. We spend the most on defense in the military, and the black budget includes the psyop budget, the propaganda budget. You know, these people are very well aware of who the great martial artists are. It's part of national security to keep tabs on great warriors. Wouldn't you say?
No, I completely agree. I just think that the impact of the drugs really does mess up your ability to perform coherently. I just feel that it, I don't understand why they haven't come. I mean, they obviously have come. You have had challenges and you've beaten them, but I don't know why they don't admit it. Why they don't come out and admit it now. So
because they put their racial pride and their businesses over martial arts. Just like that guy who, his book was written in the late 80s or something. The Complete Master's Kick is what it's called, by Master He El Cho. I bring him up in other videos. Okay?
yeah.
He's, for 40 years, he's been one of the most influential voices in martial arts, according to the book. He's author of 11 books at that time, over 30 tapes. He's an inductee. Well, that's a lot of noise. He's an inductee in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame. Okay? You know, and he said that during his time, they were already putting their business above the arts. They were making a joke out of it, a sport out of it. You know, imagine, several decades later, right?
Yeah, no, definitely, because martial arts has lost the whole philosophical reasoning behind it. It's more like a business. So, I guess from his experience, he kind of he feels like it's lost the essence of mastering martial arts, I guess. But you seem to have carried that philosophy forward, considering.
Yes, and it's a philosophy that they wish to destroy because it has to do with morality. And in order for corporate America to control people effectively, they need to destroy their moral codes, their family values, their truest religious institutions, and infiltrate them and alter them, if not destroy them, in order for them to remove the obstacles in their way of controlling human behavior. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I completely agree.
It's the same reason they're infiltrating the churches. You know, you have government agencies with working relationship with churches. You have ordained ministers in psych wards, and so on. It's because these people, in order to control people more effectively and declare a war on religious fundamentalism, you have people like Kathleen Taylor saying they intend to drug religious fundamentalists and treat religious fundamentalism as a mental illness. Now, when you look at martial arts, the most truest and traditional martial artists are religious. Look at the Buddhist temple. Look at the Shintos in Japan. Some of the Christian guys in Korea, and there's some Buddhists there too, and same with the Philippines and Thailand. They have their religions as well. And so the pagans, right? You can view the truest martial artists as religious fundamentalists who take it further than most religious people, because martial arts is a way of life that also includes a certain potential and capacity for violence.
It's interesting that the drugging and the fuming that they infiltrate on you seems to have an impact on it's like they're deliberately doing that to sabotage your martial arts.
Yeah,
because it kind of affects the mind and body, so it works hand in hand with to sort of sedate you, keep you sedated, because the opposition obviously can sort of undermine you in that respect.
Yes. We're almost out of time. I just want to leave with this last thought. They actually fume me in my room whenever I do martial arts or any workout in my room. But we're out of time, so thanks for the interview.